Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video, let's talk about Venus opposite to Pluto in the composite chart. This video has been requested a lot, so I'm excited to finally do it, and I'm not surprised that it's been requested a lot because this is one of these intense, passionate, love of a lifetime aspects to have in your composite chart, which is the combined midpoint chart of the relationship. So it's actually like the chart of the relationship itself. Also, interchangeably, this video can apply to the Davison relationship chart, which is a chart based on the midpoints of the two birth dates, so like the space and time between both of your birth dates, and then a chart is created from that exact moment. Um, so yeah, let's talk about it. This aspect tends to heighten the level of sensual expression if it's that type of relationship. The level of sensuality, sexuality, emotional intensity is quite heightened here. You also want to look at the house placements. You guys are going to think this is maybe crazy, but I usually don't look at the signs in the composite chart. I do, sometimes look at the elements roughly, but, I sort of follow Robert Hand's work on the composite chart where he doesn't use the signs. And so, that's down to preference how you want to do it. I personally don't really look at the signs. I mean, I see them, but I don't I don't read them with my clients. I just focus on the aspects and the houses if we have accurate birth times. So with this aspect though, with that being said, I would look at the house placements of Venus and Pluto because those two houses are going to be the major theme here of transformation and of probably some difficulty too. This is not an easy aspect, although it is common. Venus Pluto aspects of all kinds are common in the composite chart because they provide so much depth of feeling and intensity, and with the opposition and square it's more difficult to blend together, but we still really want to, right? Because we feel everything heightened, right? So a lot of our personality traits come out in this relationship. Sometimes, like the good, bad, and the ugly come out in this relationship. And we really want it to work in this case because we have this sense with this aspect in our composite chart that this is a big one. This is a important relationship. This is like there's nothing outside of this relationship exceeding its intensity. So we usually really do, at least at the beginning, have a motivation, have a desire to merge together and deal with whatever it is that's going to come up, because with this one, stuff is going to come up. And the areas of the Venus and Pluto houses in this opposition, right, are going to be stressed, right? So there's also a financial connotation with this aspect as well. Either, it's common to see like fighting over money. So like if this aspect shows up in a chart and there's some sort of disagreement, or there's divorcing and there's assets, there's fighting over money. Now that's just like a very classic example of like Venus Pluto energy. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but that's just one theme that we can see is resources. And there's like, with this opposition, the Taurus Scorpio polarity, no matter what house it's in, but just based on the Venus and the Pluto energies is kind of like the Taurus Scorpio axis, right? So there's themes of what's mine, Taurus, and what's yours, right? Scorpio. And like, naturally there's going to be second house, what I own versus what we own together, right? And there can also be differences or disagreements in values, right? What do I value? What do we value together as a couple, as a unit? Now, if this aspect is showing up with a relatively healthy composite chart with compatibility and lighter energies as well, this can just be the added intensity for a couple that keeps the relationship spicy and interesting, and it really can make two people completely obsessed with each other. It's very telepathic. It's almost like you get in this one and you just can't get out of it because you're in each other's heads, you're in each other's fields, you're in each other's auras. Like you can't break the soul ties. It's very difficult. It's very deep, it's very intimate. Um, but yeah, it can certainly be difficult with a whole like other slew of difficult aspects. You want to look at everything. If this is like, yeah, like I said, with like some other really nice harmonies or compatibilities in the synastry, then this will just add that extra level of like spice and intensity and make it a plutonic relationship. So make it a relationship that transforms you. And some of the areas that are going to be transformed can be shown by the houses of the Venus Pluto, but then also what I've said, resources, value, self value, self worth is going to be a big one in this relationship. It's going to be triggered, and, hopefully it can be actually increased when we have this opposition. But what often happens is that due to the forced transformations that this relationship will cause you to have, some people will experience this aspect as a decrease in their self-worth or a dramatic change in the way they view themselves. So if this is occurring in a toxic relationship, you'd see that this relationship is like a black hole sucking out their self-worth or their resources or their like heart energy. It's really, it can be that intense. Like that sounds extreme, but like if this is showing up in a negative or toxic relationship, this can be so like destroying to your soul. When we have this aspect, it's very, very intense. It's probably more intense than the square, but the square is kind of just like a constant level of tension and unrest. This, it's like we're really, really, really doing good and we're so close and we're so bonded, and then we're doing really, really, really bad and we hate each other and we are just out to get revenge. So it tends to flip flop like that. Now, with more like emotionally evolved people, like people with emotional awareness that don't have the tendency to blame the other on for all of their emotions, and more emotionally mature people, this doesn't have to be like a fighting aspect, but it's still going to bring up whatever self-worth stuff you have, whatever financial stuff you have going on, whatever issues around love and sharing with another intimately, sexually, right? These things are still going to be brought up to be triggered. But the thing with the opposition is it's almost like it's like a full moon, right? Because like with the full moon, the sun is opposite to the moon. So we get that, big full moon and all these issues get brought up and all these emotions get brought up. But also it's like we're way more able to tap into the gifts of those opposing energies and, heal quickly because it's all like brought up, right? So the opposition is kind of like a full moon, the aspect, right? So when we have an opposition between Venus and Pluto, it's like the full moon of Venus and Pluto. I've never said it like that. I've never even thought of it like that until this moment, but like that's what it's like. So that level of intensity, that level of passion, that level of Venus, which is like pleasure, love, what we value, our self-worth, right? With Pluto, the transforming agent, death and rebirth. When we have this in such a fullness, we're going to be forced to transform. And it's really up to you and of course your partner too, because this is a composite chart aspect, how you're going to handle this intense energy. But guaranteed, it is very intense. It can be very healing. It can be very transformative, or it can be very difficult and damaging and like a constant battleground. The other thing that it can make people be like is very ruthless. And I said this about Venus Pluto in conjunction, but with that one we're a bit more of a team. We're united with the conjunction. With the opposition, it's similar though that we, in dealing with the outside world, we can be very ruthless, dealing with financial things. We can be very cutthroat when we have Venus Pluto opposition, like if we're business partners or if we're in a relationship but we're doing business together or we're handling finances together, we can really be, yeah, kind of ruthless and very plutonic or very, like it's like when we have an aspect in the composite chart, it's like we have it in both our natals when we're together, right? Like we start acting like that. So it's very intimidating for the outside world to have a couple that has a strong plutonic opposition in their composite chart, because the opposition does also have a theme of dealing with the outside world is as well, because it's like, the nature of polarity, right? So this can be a very intense couple or a very intense couple of people if they're just friends or if they're family or if they're business partners or whatever. Like you're giving off strong plutonic vibes, and you want to use those for good, because you might have a tendency to run over people or be ruthless or be, yeah, like I said, cutthroat in business. And like, yeah, so just be aware that you do that to each other. And you make each other kind of intense, and like it's funny, it's a very obsessive relationship. And even if you see it in familial relationships, you can see a bond that is so close and so deep, and even so, like it's almost taboo how close they are. Like you can see like the obsessive parent, or at least it can look like that to the outside world, that we have someone who's like a very what's the word for that, like, and it's not necessarily in like an unhealthy or creepy way, but it's just like a very involved parent who you can't like escape, like, that's actually how I've experienced it and how I've been noticing it lately in familial relationships. So it definitely makes you feel like you're being watched by your parent and you can't get away, and you try to get away and you can't. And there can be a lot of power struggles with this aspect. So this like would be like my top 5 intense composite chart aspects. I would rate this even higher than the conjunction as far as intensity and difficulty, but I would also rate it higher than the conjunction for the possibility for it to be like the best relationship ever too, because with the opposition it's like you get it all. It's like the good and the bad, the ugly, and the heightened emotions can, really, if there's other nice aspects, make this relationship the love of a lifetime, the best relationship ever, the most intimate, the most deep, the most sexual. I haven't really mentioned that because I've mostly experienced it in familial relationships myself, but it's very intense, it's very sexual. A lot of what I have said in my Venus Pluto synastry video would apply, except instead of one person being the Pluto and one person being Venus, we're both, right? So it's like who you are combined as a couple. So yeah. Another part of this would be that you're more able together to see the deeper things in life, the taboo, the spiritual. Even if one of you or both of you is not spiritually inclined, you're able to go beneath the surface and kind of like psychoanalyze people, and you're able to notice things together that are, yeah, hidden under the surface, taboo, spiritual, occult, right? You're better able to do that together than you would be apart, because this aspect does give a lot of psychic energy, where we're able to dig deep and like kind of like become, yeah, like therapists together, or just there's very deep thinking that can come up here. And especially too, if this is going to be occurring in like more mental houses in the composite chart, we're going to have that effect. But yeah, what else? I've already been talking for a long time, but yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this aspect. If it was like this, if it wasn't like this, let me know in the comments, you guys. And thanks for your requests. Keep your requests coming in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Love you guys. Talk soon. Bye.